All right, guys, I've figured it out. I figured out how the rich avoid paying taxes forever. And I ran through every scenario of how they make it work. And you guys can replicate it too. It doesn't have to be an absorbent amount. You can do whatever you can afford. But I ran projections across 50 years in every scenario possible, including drawdowns. And it's okay. So, if you guys don't mind, just comment no taxes for the YouTube algo. And for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to eat some creatine plus report my numbers from the day before. If you guys are into that, simply skip on ahead using the progress bar. Alrighty, so your boys in the Isle of Skye. Hope you guys are doing well. The weather yesterday was terrible. Rain just stopped. Janice and I are going for a quick hike, hour and a half quickie. Here we go. So yesterday we did 1,300 in total revenue, down $8 from the day before. We have Amazon coming in at 220, Mediavine at 86, and the adult revenue source at 998. Let's get on with the episode. Probably gonna be a quick one. I got a lot of things to do, but I'll catch you guys, in the next scene. Alrighty. If you sign up for the first link in the YouTube description, you can send the URL to the sheet. Today's episode 542. This is how the rich never pay taxes. Explained like I was 5, June 3rd. And anyways, TLDR, very quickly and explain like you were 5. You just borrow you just buy stuff that goes up in value, like S&P 500 or real estate. Real estate actually doesn't work very well because of the rate of which it appreciates. 2, never sell it so you don't pay taxes, because if you sell stock, let's say you buy for $1, you sell for 10, the $9 gain is taxed. I don't know, depending on whichever country you're in. In Canada, 50% of those is taxed at the maximum rate, especially if you're a high income earner like I am. All right. Everything I'm talking about today is legal. I can only speak on Canadian and the US. So a couple of things you have to mention. I have to mention. All right. So this works especially well in the US. So 3, instead you live off of borrowed money using your stuff as collateral. Meaning, let's say you buy at $1, your S&P 500 at $1, it goes to 10. You can borrow up to 50% of that using margin, actually. So you live off borrowed money, low interest rate, no taxes on that as well. So example is, let's say you have $10 million. You can borrow, using that $10 million in S&P 500, you can borrow up to $5 million and just use it. For emergency cases, you can also use it like just day-to-day life. And that interest that is accrued, because you have to pay interest when you borrow, right? It's typically just prime, which is the interest rate that is set by the government, minus or plus a couple points. And you don't pay taxes on those at all. So let's say you buy S&P 500 at 1 million, it goes to 10, you're able to borrow 5 million at 5% interest rate. All right. That's the whole premise behind it. The very interesting about the US is, I kind of get you're probably like, Jackie, I get the premise. You buy stuff, you borrow off of it, and you live off of the borrowed funds. Great. How does this work on like a yearly basis? How does it work? What happens during a drawdown? This works very well in the US because when you die, your kids get your stuff and the taxes owed on that gain is just gone. In Canada, it's not the case. It passes on. It doesn't pass on in terms of spousal. So let's say my wife, I get clapped, my wife can get it. Deferred taxes, fine. All right. Why does this concept work very well? Because S&P 500 historically gains 8% a year. but you're borrowing like much less than that. That's the whole premise behind this. All right. The projections I ran is you borrow anywhere from 2 to 4% a year. So let's say if you have $10 million in S&P 500, then you can borrow 2 to 4% of that. 2 to 4% of that easily. So that means 200K to 400K a year. And if you want to take out a flat amount, let's say today you have $10 million in S&P 500, you plan on taking 400K out for the rest of your life, that's okay. However, if you want to, the only thing that the other YouTube channels don't talk about is what happens if you want to inflation adjust it. Because let's say in 30 years, 400K a year is probably not enough. All right. That's just how inflation works. And why this works is because you never trigger capital gains tax at all. Borrowed money isn't taxable. In fact, sometimes the borrowed money interest rate is deductible if you use stuff to buy. In Canada, if you use it to buy like investments. All right. And heirs get a clean slate, which I mentioned already, non-taxable. So I want to run a projection by you guys. You start with $10 million. This money is only an example. You're probably like, Jackie, that's crazy. I don't need $10 million. That's fine. You start with one. All right. This is just the math behind it. You start with $10 million. You withdraw 2 to 4. The reason why I use 10 million is that's my goal for investable assets in the near future. So I want 10 million in S&P 500, and then the rest, that's my nest egg. Like I'll never touch that. That'll be for the rest of my life. All right. Now, each year you withdraw between 2 to 4%, and I'm going to run projections by you. Increase withdrawals by 2.5% per year to keep up with inflation, and you pay 5% interest on the borrowed amount. And this is very conservative because interest rates go up and down, but 5% is pretty high, historically speaking. And we're putting S&P 500 at 8% annual growth. All right, so this is super conservative, especially with inflation only 2.5% and withdrawal rate at 2% is totally okay. So what we need to calculate is the loan to value ratio. That is super scary because what happens is once you go past like 50% loan to value, most brokerages will clap you. Like you're getting margin called. You're clapped. All right, you're wiped out. However, in this scenario, you're totally fine. All right, 2%, year one withdrawal, 200K, loan after 50 years, 11 mil owed, but S&P 500 is something going crazy, like freaking 500 million after 50 years, which is insane, by the way. If you guys think about it, 10 million now means 400 million in 50 years, but that's okay. All right, 50 years, let's say I start now. That's why, I'd be absolutely balling out of control. Loan as a percentage of portfolio, 2.5%. Margin called, never. All right. The only time it gets close is 4% with the withdrawal amount increasing by 2.5% a year. When you do 4% withdrawal rate is you need to stay stagnant. You cannot increase at all you can't adjust for inflation at all. You get super close. You get out to like the 40 something percent mark. And if you hit the 40 something percent LTV and there's a huge drawdown in the S&P 500, you're clapped. So yeah, I calculated for all the drawdowns in history, and 3% I think never hits unless you're talking about, I think it was like Black Friday in the 20s. 3% is very safe with a 2.5% a year adjusted inflation rate. 2% is crazy. If you guys can live off of 2%, that is ideal. All right. The withdrawal rate with inflation 2.5% is very conservative. And I think the reason why I wanted to talk about this today is I think a lot of you guys, I speak to a lot of you guys, right? You guys are in my DMs. A lot of you guys are in Advise. Your boy is super conservative despite taking crazy swings in business. And that's because Business is already super high risk. So I think my investments are typically super conservative because of that. I talked about this in the past, of course, but I just want you guys to build a nice nest egg. All right. This is why I drop in like personal finance stuff. It's not advice. This is just purely for entertainment purposes only. But what I want you guys to do is build a nice nest egg. I don't want to see you guys get clapped. Start investing in the S&P 500. I wish someone told me earlier. And with that said, let me answer some questions from the day before. I hope you guys liked this episode. I know. You guys are probably thinking, Jackie, what are you even saying? But let's get on with the questions. Like a lot of these things need to be said. And I don't think people talk about it enough. Like I know this video probably won't get a lot of views. But I think it needs to be said, especially for SEO people. They're like, some of them are honestly financially irresponsible, like the way they spend money. All right. All right. Thank you, Tom. Can a concrete contractor GBP have an address attached to it, even though it doesn't serve customers there? Even if it's verified? Will Google eventually catch on and ask to re-verify? Probably. What I need, I talked about this in the past. The best way to do it is you register, if you're faking it, which sounds you are, no offense, Harchit. If you're faking it, fake it in a building where you can actually get an address. I'm doing this right now in the Advise community. Yeah, just trust me here. I think Google ADK will be a killer stack, and Opus can probably one-shot that as well. Automation agency, yeah, probably. Why no follow links for local rank citations versus follow or naked? Follow is very risky. I would not recommend that even on my worst enemy, despite the citations working very well. It's just, you don't need it for local SEO. Local SEO is just NAP consistency, all right? I've shown it time and time again. Do not risk using followed. Honestly, I should probably just disable that option because you guys keep choosing follow. How do you personalize your cold emails? Because Lobster does not give owner's name, etc. You don't have to personalize with name. All right. You don't always have to do it. You can say, hey, fellow city name guy. So typically each city has their own way of calling people from that city. Vancouver has Vancouverites. You can use OpenAI to go in and create one for each city, right? Okay, this is definitely spam. User from channel. Nick showed a lot of DIY stuff, okay? Before school was popular, he started doing daily videos. I think he got that idea from you, which grew his school community a lot. Amazing. He's spamming short form content on Instagram and Facebook, separate to Google's YouTube. So I expect this helped him grow. Amazing. Nick's great, man. I should message him. The more recent daily video like you currently do. Difference between what you and Nick do is that your stuff is a bit under the radar unless you join the community, whereas Nick offers everything openly and community is optional. You guys both make a load of money, so I can't say as a viewer which one is better. I like your content. Keep it up. Thanks. Appreciate it. And that's really helpful insight. Thank you. Please talk about domain investing. I don't invest in domains. Awesome video with the best way be just cold calling email starting locally. Any tips to rank without an office address? Thanks. Get an office address. Send you a DM about AI overview optimization tool. No response because I don't think it's a good idea. Anyways, that's it, guys. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.